Okay, had to do some adjusting there. I think it's gonna bite now. Maybe. Doesn't seem like it. See? Just fighting with these things. So here's the thing. I already shot an intro for this video and kind of started on making some AN lines for the transmission lines for the Dakota. And then I went to edit it and realized how painful it was, because all I did was struggle with making these AN lines until I figured out a process that worked. So let me save you all that frustration of me just fighting with AN lines for 45 minutes or so. And we're gonna start from scratch, and I'll show you the process that works for me and also what we're going to use. So let's start there. I got some -6 and -8 previously, PTFE braided line from a local guy. He's local to me at least, but he sells online, which is monkeyfabgarage, monkey fabrication garage to be exact. And I've used it on my fuel lines previously, and it's actually pretty good stuff. I'm really happy with it. It actually has a lot of flexibility. This is a -8 line, and I can almost double it over before it even thinks about kinking. So that's a good sign. And so is this. This is the -6. It also will do a pretty tight radius, and it's held up pretty well. What do you think? She doesn't know. She doesn't know. But I also buy the fittings from him as well. So Monkey Fabrication Garage, I'll have a link down in the bottom to his website. And this stuff is relatively inexpensive if you order it from him. This is ORB fittings that I will be showing you guys in a later video when we do a intake manifold conversion. But let me show you the process. This is what works for me. I don't know if everybody recommends it the same way, but to me, what I like to do is I like to use a cutting wheel. See here, a cutting wheel. This is actually one just from Harbor Freight on my angle grinder. And that's how we're gonna start. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and trim this line and get it ready for the fitting. So let me get that all like mocked up and we'll start trimming. So here we go, step one. I've got it in the vise. And what we're about to do is we're about to trim it. So now that I got it in the vise, I'm gonna take some electrical tape and I'm gonna wrap it around where I need to cut. And you don't really need to go more than maybe 1.5 around it. I gotta find something to cut it. It doesn't need a whole lot, but you do want to keep tension on that tape while you do it, because it will allow us to kind of compress some of that braid, that nylon braid. Then we're gonna cut it. So step two, let's cut it with our cutting wheel, and we're gonna try to cut it as straight and even as possible. Probably not the best idea to hold it and cut it, but you know, do as I say, not as I do. So now let's look at the fitting and see how it's made up. Got 3 pieces here for a PTFE fitting. This is the collar. This is what they call the olive. And then this is the actual fitting itself. So the first thing that has to go on is the collar. So now that we've made that cut, you know, a decent, nice straight cut. Well, it could be straighter, but I think we're still gonna be okay. Let's get the collar on, which this is the hardest part, especially if you're using -6 line, because it's just a little difficult to get over. That's -8 stuff is real easy. So the -6 is a little more difficult, but the process is the same. As long as you're careful with it, you should be able to get it done just like that. So the collar's over it. Now let's pull this electrical tape back off. We're gonna pull that off, and then we're gonna spread out this metal that's surrounding the liner with our thumb carefully. You can poke yourself if you didn't cut it well, but it seems to be doing okay. Not real aggressive. Then our olive goes right on it, as far as down as we possibly can, to try to get it even with the nylon on the inside, which this one is. Little move there for just for safe or security, I guess you could say. Then our fitting goes on. It's really that easy. There it goes. Now slide our collar back up. Got to get over some of this stuff, and then should be able to start kind of getting it tightened. Don't force it, don't cross thread it. All of the above are really important. I don't have jaws for my vise here, so a temporary solution is just using some cardboard. Secure this in the vise with my cardboard jaws. High dollar cardboard jaws. I don't want to get it real tight. I just want to prevent it from turning, because you don't want to crush that. Now I got to get a wrench and we'll finish this off. Now you should use aluminum wrenches. I don't have any, so I'm going to use this instead. And we're not quite grabbing yet. See if I can push down and make it do what I need it to do. Okay, had to do some adjusting there. I think it's gonna bite now. Maybe. Doesn't seem like it. See? Just fighting with these things. I'm going to end up screwing this fitting up. There it goes. There we go. That's it. All right, there you have it. Final result. And that's my process. It seems to work pretty well so far. That one wasn't the prettiest one, but sometimes you've got to get, think out of the box, make it work, and that one did. And the reason that the hose is spinning in here is just because there's a lot more clearance on these Dash 8s than there is on the Dash 6. The Dash 6 is much harder to get the collar on. Now, my process has been pretty successful for me once I figured that out, because I was cutting it with shears before, which really kind of mangles it all up like that. But the cutting wheel keeps that round, keeps that diameter, and it allows that nylon to kind of stay in place so you can get that collar on it, and it just makes it a whole lot easier than when you're reforming it back open and stuff like that. So I like this process. I'm hoping it works out well. I'll only know if they leak once we get them on, and let's hope they don't leak and we're good to go. That's it. I'll let y'all get back to where I was before. So you're gonna see kind of a interesting transition right here. Well, I've learned things on this project, so let me share a couple of those things with you right now. First of all, these are two of the factory fittings for the transmission for the 4L80E. This is the rear, this is the front. Now, if you have a very early 4L80E, which I think is like 91 through 93, they are set up just like a Turbo 400, where they're both in the same place. So I don't know if this applies to that or not, so I can't speak to that, but since my transmission is like an LS 80E, it matters. This being the rear fitting, you see how long it is? That's because it has to go back through something. I believe this actually bolts into the center support. So it actually has to be that long. So if you buy fittings make sure you get ones that are the same. So that's exactly what I did. I ordered mine from Summit. This is the rear, if you guys can see that, 220576B as in boy. And then this is the front. So it matches as well. Front. Now, I'm gonna put the O-rings on these guys. Probably put a little oil on them too. Maybe, if I can get this thing on here. And, well, I'll meet you underneath the truck because I have to show you what's going on with all that. Usually there's a cross member right here, but I have that cross member out and I have the transmission on the jack right here and it's leaning down. The reason for that is the front fitting up here will not screw on with the 90 degree that I need with it in place because there's not enough clearance here. Now I've pushed it back a little bit, kind of unprofessionally, I guess you could say. It is what it is. It is gonna work, but I needed to drop it down some so I can get this in place. And let me try to clean up these threads real quick. I don't like the stuff that I'm seeing. Alright, I think that's pretty good. O-rings in place. We'll throw the rear one in now. Snug it up. I think that's good. Okay. Now you guys might be able to get a glimpse of what I was talking about because I got my 90 degree that we just put on here and it would not fit on here before. Now it should fit just fine. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to come down with it because it needs to go with it over. And I hope that's gonna clear. It should. Now I need to run it back over to my cooler. So let me kind of do that and then I'll show you what we're working with. Got it mocked up. Let me show you guys. So this is what I was talking about. There is not a lot of room right here on this fitting. So I had to get that tightened up first before we jacked it back up and put the cross member in place. And now that it's in place, we can run the line. So this is the AN line. It's gonna go over the transmission. Man, this creeper's about done. It's gonna come over here. I'm gonna have to figure out some way to make a bracket for that. And then it's gonna come into the cooler right here. So I have to put my AN adapters on the cooler. So I have to go get those, but I'm gonna mark my line and put another fitting on, which will be a straight fitting. And then we'll make the second line. So since this line is coming from the front of the transmission, which I showed you a minute ago, this is actually the exhaust side. So this is the fluid coming out of the transmission and then going into the cooler. That's important because we need to make sure we put a the switch that's going to turn on this fan here in the hottest leg of the cooler. So let me get my, this is like -12 to -6 adapter. I'm going to throw this in place. Then I have a little AN to AN adapter here, 6 AN to 6 AN. I'm glad I bought this at some point in time, didn't return it because now I can use it. And then we have this, which, let me pull this stuff off first, which is a port plug. So this will go right here in line, and then we'll put this little thing right here, which is the temperature switch. So So this is what's going to tell the fan to kick on at 180 degrees and kick off at 165 degrees. So now that I have all that in place, I'm going to need to mark where we're going to need to make this line. Now I'm going to mark a little bit ahead because we've got some room to play with, and in case I screw up, I'd like to be able to fix it. So I'm going to try to mark it on the right side, and that should be go back just a little bit more. We're going to mark it right there, and now we're going to go cut it. We're going to pull everything off, and we're going to go cut this and try to get the other fitting on. Well, that was a better method than original, because I didn't like that first way I was doing it. But hey, we got the line all in place. I'm actually going to spray it with some brake cleaner in the center and blow it out with the hose real quick, and then I'm going to install it, and I'll show you guys how it looks installed. Alright, so headers here. This is where we get to our first fitting. Remember, I told you it's real close. If I ever pull the motor out, I need to mark that area and beat it with a hammer, get a little clearance. I'm worried about it kind of rotating. I'm hoping that it doesn't hurt anything, but it might, but let's hope that it doesn't. But check this out. So I used a factory boss on the transmission here. See if I can move the light for you guys a little bit more. And I used a P-clamp right there. So that kind of holds everything out of the way, so I'll be able to run my exhaust and not worry about that line. Then the lines go up and over the transmission. You can see them there. Sorry, moving the flashlight as we go here. So they go up and are out of the way. Then right here, I did the same thing. This is the mounting bolt for the dang it. This is the mounting bolt for the shifter, and I went ahead and put another nut on it and another P-clamp for this line. Then I zip tied the other line to it that I made, and then we come all the way here to the trans cooler. Trans cooler. So yeah, trans is this way, but everything's way up out of the way. I did had to cut these nuts down here that I had for my drive shaft safety loop, and I still have to run my cable yet, which I hadn't figured that out yet. But here we go right here. Trans cooler lines are on. Everything's actually pretty tight. Like I said, way up out of the way. I should be good to go. And this is, you know, this is a really good solid mounting point. Nothing's at too much of a bend. There's some flexibility. It's not rubbing on anything that's gonna put a hole in it. And I'm happy with it. You know, I'm glad to have this monkey off my back. All right, well, I'm at a stopping point. Obviously, AN lines are not my favorite thing in the world, especially PTFE lines. But I'm glad I'm getting the experience with them. I'm gonna get more comfortable with them and probably have more confidence in them. That's probably where I'm at now. I'm just afraid they're gonna come apart And on a transmission, that would be very bad because transmission fluid is flammable. So I don't want that. But I'm pretty confident that they came out okay, and I think it's going to work pretty well. Other than that, I think I'm ahead of schedule on some of the filming here. So I'm going to take the rest of this week to really kind of go through this wiring and get stuff cleaned up. There's just a lot of improvements that I can do now, and that's what I'm going to be focused on, since now's the time to do it. So I'm going to be doing that, and that's just kind of specific to my build. Again, I'm just cleaning things up. It's going to be nice having that firewall, just, you know, not having anything on it. Eventually I'll come in here and we'll weld up things and make it nice and paint it, but that's another project down the road that I'm not too concerned about at the moment. We're turning the corner on this thing. Once I get through this, you know, wire kind of redirect, I guess you could say, I'm throwing the exhaust on it. We're going to throw the bed on it. I'm going to throw a tip coming out the back of the truck, which I'm excited about because it used to come out the side of the truck previously, so I got a good idea for that. So that'll be something I've really never done before as far as modifying this exhaust system, and so that's next on the agenda. Good news though is I got this merch samples in today, and out of the 4 things that I ordered, 2 of them I like, and I'll probably show you the other 2 just to kind of get your ideas on them. So that'll be coming out in our next video. I'm gonna put that at the front of the next video, see if you like it, and if you do, maybe you'll order some. And if you order some and it goes well, maybe I'll do a bulk order and kind of, I don't know, I got some plans, let's just put it that way. So I'll be showing you guys the merchandise next video, and that's it for now. So I got to put the Nova back together so we can get it mobile, and maybe order some parts for it, because I'd like to drive it before the weather gets real crappy out. So Sonoma's hanging in there. Bel Air's got some plans for next year. I may bring this guy out to drive it a little bit. I'd like to put some miles on it, but it's definitely got some plans for this. The RT might be getting swapped out for something tomorrow, and you guys have seen it on the channel before, but we're ready to get it back here so we can start doing some work on it. So a little surprise for you if you're not aware of what I'm talking about. And like I always say, we got a lot going on, so we'd love to have you come hang out with us. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Feel free to check out our social media, which is just Facebook and Instagram, and both of those are at the Racer X Garage. We got some stuff to do to Gramps here soon too, which would be nice. This is our 6.2 LS that's going to go on something eventually. Anyway, I'm just trying to give you guys some examples of what we're doing. My phone's ringing, which means I need to shut it down. So I'm going to do that. So until next time, I really appreciate you guys for watching. And you guys know the deal. Y'all be good.